own story. Everything that exists in life is a story you tell yourself. There is nothing. You are the story that you tell yourself. Your perception of the world is a story. And it's not the storytellers who tell the story. Scientists tell a story. A theory, a scientific story. A scientific theory is nothing but a story that a scientist goes out to prove. How many of you know what's going to happen tomorrow? Just raise your hands. How many of you can imagine what's going to happen tomorrow? Raise your hands. Right, now how many of you can believe me when I say what's going to happen tomorrow, your imagination is the story of tomorrow? You're already telling a story. This moment you're telling the story of the next moment. And everybody has their own story. Everybody has a perception. One person is sitting to the next thinking about the other person, is telling an imaginary story about the other person. I think she's looking at me. It's a perception, it's a story. And now you build your imagination around that story. Bullshit, she's not looking at him, I'm not looking at him at all. That's that perception. And around that perception there's a story. So everything is a story. So, if everything is a story, we are all fundamentally storytellers. That's what we do. That's what children do. They tell themselves stories of the environment that they face, and then they play Dr. Doctor. Never see much of it, but I keep reading books that play Dr. Doctor. Doll, whatever. Games, now they all play on iPads. Each time is a story. An artist looks at a blank canvas and stares in absolute fear at the blank canvas, as man did centuries ago, looking at the universe and not understanding anything about it. It's the same fear that an artist has. The same fear as a storyteller looking at a piece of paper, trying to write the first word. And that fear drives the artist to say, oh my God, I have to start somewhere. And slowly the artist starts to create the story of the blank canvas. And at the end of it is a painting. It's actually a story. Or a composer. Or a filmmaker. All art, and all life, but that's another meeting. All art is the idea of contradiction and trying to find a harmony in contradiction. So is storytelling. What we do with storytelling is we take moral contradiction. So Romeo and Juliet, they fall in love. If there was no opposition to love, then there would be no love story. So each time we tell a story, we pick moral contradictions of our environment, of our culture, and we take those contradictions, and then we start to create characters, which we call protagonists and antagonists, and then clash them. Now, what are the great films? What are the great stories? The great stories are those that actually create harmony in your mind, in your imagination, like a great composition. So Mozart wrote his great compositions. He wrote his Requiem, which was his death. And he clashed things together that talk to you about the eternity of dying. So, a storytelling of film, what we'll do is we'll take protagonists and antagonists and clash them in a way. And what actually makes a great story or a great film that you can watch again and again that will live years and years later is the fact that the story allows you to create your own harmony in your own imagination. And if you see it when you're 15 years old, you bring to it your life experience and interpret it differently. When you see it when you're 50 years old, you bring your life experience and interpret it completely differently. That's why people say, hey, I'm not doing a film dekhi and I saw things I hadn't seen before. You've seen it before. You just haven't interpreted it like that. So what's a great story? What's a great film? It's a film that provokes you So it's a film that provokes you to bring to it your imagination without providing you all the answers. If it provides you with all the answers, then it's okay. You walk away without thinking about it. So storytelling in films, now after that it's technique. What do I do in a film? I just take, everything has to complement and contradict the story at the same time. Boy meets girl, boy falls in love with girl, girl's parents oppose, girl's parents, they fight, girl's parents agree, they get married, and they live happily ever after. Yeah. It's the story of 80% of Bollywood films. Right? That's okay. But what else is it telling you? So underneath that is what we call subtext. Every scene is telling you a different contradictory story. So it's taking what seems on a bit very simplistic, it's creating more subtext into it. So now, you take the cameraman and you say, what can you add to the main plot? I'm not asking my cameraman to reinforce the main plot. I'm asking to tell one other level of subtext under the main story, the main plot. I never ask the musician or the composer to come and substantiate. It's not like there's a comic scheme going on and there's a music around it. I never do that. I add another layer beneath that. So the actors add a layer. The photographer, the DP, and the lighting adds a layer. The editing adds a layer. And what fun is it that even, I've always told my actors, when you're performing, there is nothing right or wrong. Nothing. There's nothing right or wrong. It's honest or dishonest. That's it. And is it honest or dishonest that the honesty of that moment could be a dishonesty of the next moment? So it's honesty and dishonesty of that moment that must come through in the performances, in my directing of them, in the composer's composition of it. And that honesty and the dishonesty, or the honesty of that moment may clash with the actors, like in Bandit Queen. The honesty, what was going on in Seema Biswas's mind was often very different from what was going on in my mind. Her interpretation of what I was trying to tell in that scene was sometimes completely different. And completely different in the lighting, and completely different in the actor's mind. But we were all moving in the same raging river. The river, it was just we were making the river deeper and deeper. And the deeper we made it, the more it raged. And therefore the greater effect it had on you as an audience, because you all came to the screen, to the cinema, with different minds, different experiences, and different imaginations. So what's a great film story? A great film story is one that can appeal to everybody in the theater, or a great film can appeal to everybody in the theater at different points, touch you in different ways, and all of you walk out with the same plot but different interpretations of what else went on in the film.
Good afternoon, sir.
Hi.
My question is, how do you know a story is ending? Basically, whenever the story starts, it has to end. Certain things which start has to end. How do you know when it's going to end? Some things never end, and the movie has to end. People have this different thinking of end. You know, like everybody has his own way of thinking how it ends. How do you realize this is it? Okay, this is the end. It has to end this way. How do you come to know?
How do you know where to start?
Well, it's just an idea.
How do they know where to start Romeo and Juliet? But the moment you know how to start it, you know how to end it. That's actually the fundamental theory of storytelling. Tell me how Romeo and Juliet started.
I just laughed.
It started because you suddenly saw a boy looking for love and a girl about to get married in a place that she didn't want to get married, right? So what do you want as an audience?
I want them to live together.
Forever?
Yeah.
Which they did. So you've already told me the ending. Right? So how many of you know this story? I mean, it's a very simplistic example. Remember the story of the princess and the frog?
Yeah.
Right? So here's what happened. A princess who's very beautiful and is very lonely. Right? She goes for a walk in the garden. Right? And there she comes across an ugly toad who croaks. And he croaks and says, "Oh dear princess, if you kiss me, my life will be made." The princess bends down and picks up this slimy, ugly toad, kisses the toad, and the frog turns into handsome prince, and they fall in love and live happily ever after. You've all heard that story? Analyze it. Once upon a time there was a princess, Aspiration, right? Who was very lonely. Now you already know how indifferent, right? And how can an aspirational princess ever her loneliness be satisfied? I think married to a handsome prince, right? That's what your culture tells you. That's what your stories as you grew up as a child tell you. Goes for a walk in the garden, so comes across as this horrible, ugly, slimy toad, says, "Princess, pick me up." She does. Sacrifice. In our culture, sacrifice must be rewarded. How must she be rewarded? We've already said that in the beginning. So he turns into a handsome. Now let me retell you that story. And you tell me whether this story works for you. There's a beautiful princess. Beautiful, young princess. Who was so lonely. One day she went for a lonely walk in the garden and came across this horrible, ugly toad, slimy. And toad said, "Princess, will you pick me up, please, and kiss me?" And the princess, feeling incredible pity, overcame her revulsion and picked up the toad and slimy kissed that slimy, ugly toad and put the toad down. And the toad croaked happily and said, and ran away. Does it work for you? Does it work for anybody? But if it doesn't work for you, why doesn't it work for you? You know why it doesn't? Because you've set the parameters of the plot in the very opening lines of the story. A princess who was very beautiful, who was very, very lonely. In the first three lines, you've set up the ending. So in the beginning, so if you know the beginning, you know the ending. Right? The rest is life. That's plot. Thank you very much. I'll answer questions outside, but you've been a great audience. I really appreciate it.